Welcome to a brand new podcast. Iain Maclean is a writer and the author of TJS War. David Blair is an actor and the narrator of the audiobook TJS War. David and Iain have been listening to their readers and listeners and have decided to turn TJS War into a movie. And since the story covers the entirety of World War II, the movie will cost at least $50 million. Will David and Iain succeed in their quest? Follow them in this podcast series. We're going to make a $50 million movie.
Welcome, folks, to episode 28 of We're Going to Make a $50 Million Movie or TV series. If you watched episode 27, and if you haven't, I strongly advise you go back and give that a view or a listen. Then you'll know roughly what we're up to, because this week in episode 28, we're going to be doing the same format, reenacting parts of the book. We've chosen some specific clips which we thought would be fun to bring to life. And just as the other one was unexpectedly impactful, I guess, this one is in the same way and in a kind of a different way as well. The themes are a little bit different, but we really felt that reading these scenes really helped bring them to life. And just as Iain said in the intro to the last episode, if you haven't bought the book, then buy it. If you haven't listened to it, then listen to it, because this story really, really needs to get out there. And we can't do that without you. So here's a fantastic episode for you. We're going to bring these scenes to life, hopefully, in our own inimitable way. Okay, enjoy.
Scene 1. Leaving Winchester training room, TJ and Liz finally get a chance to talk to each other. Harry checked his watch.
My role is to lead your training and ensure that you remain physically healthy throughout your time here. Next, this morning we are going to run from the main gate of the camp to the centre of Winchester and back. As you head upstairs to get into your running gear, please leave your ID cards face down on the table. I will meet you at the bus stop, just beyond the main gate. Go!
Running around the back of TJ's head was an almost deranged sergeant's voice. He was instantly back at his old barracks, going through basic training the previous October.
You're in the army now, lads. Only 3 rules. 1, you do exactly what I say. 2, you sleep with your rifle as if you're married to it. And 3, you never, ever lose your identity card.
The sergeant looked at the man standing next to TJ, who was shaking with fear.
Just remember rule 1, laddie.
Harry then watched as the group filed out, their passes making a small pile on the table. Moments later, members of the group made their way to the main gate. Plimsolls, white socks, navy blue shorts, and white tops. John had left the mansion at the same time as Liz, so they walked together. Liz reminded John of Annie, just more serious, more committed, but with that same sparkle in her eyes, the same dimpled cheeks, even the color of her hair.
Well, after Jack's little speech, I'm not sure what we can talk about.
Liz had a smile that maybe said more than it should. It was when Liz spoke that the differences became clear. Gone were the soft tones of Annie's Scottish accent. Instead, this was cut glass, expensively educated, with BBC enunciation and diction. As she spoke, she smiled, and in that instant, the vestiges of Annie, the final clinging memories, dissolved to smoke and flew away.
Oh, I'm sure we'll think of something.
You're Scottish.
Steady now. I suggest you stick to the weather.
Can't do that. North of the border, you chaps only know rain.
They were walking down an aisle of poplar trees, their feet crunching on gravel.
Aye, lass, that's maybe true, but I know many types of rain.
TJ was looking into her smiling eyes. She liked being called lass.
Oh, that's interesting. Do tell.
He turned to walk backwards while never leaving her eyes.
Rain. Light rain, soft as dandelion wisps that kiss your skin.
Still smiling.
Salt rain, coming in from the Atlantic, tasting of time.
The smile was slipping now, changing. He was TJ, a man who could say whatever he wanted. Now here was Liz entering his world.
Black rain, falling in stair rods from cold, dark mountains of cloud, chilling your bones and making you very wet.
I think we'd better discuss this later.
Liz was breaking into the widest smile.
So, what do you know about?
Right now? Well, I know we are at the gate.
Just in time for TJ not to walk into it. The guards disappointed not to see him crash. Some of the others were already across the road at the bus stop. A guard opened the gate to let TJ and Liz join them.
Harry not here yet?
The group shook their heads as the stragglers duly arrived. Then began the wait. After some time, people wondered if perhaps they were supposed to meet Harry in Winchester. But TJ, Liz, and others were certain he had said the bus stop. The group soon split. Some went to Winchester, some stayed by the bus stop, and one thought to go back to the mansion, but was turned away at the gate as he did not have his pass. TJ watched and reflected. There was something odd about the gate guards. They worked too hard at looking away from the bus stop. Telling Liz to wait for him, he walked back across the road. The nearest guard held up his hand.
You can't come in here without your pass, Sunshine.
The other guard coming over in support.
Who said I haven't got my pass?
TJ held up his slightly tattered army pass with his regiment's red stamp across his photo. The guard looked at it, looked across to his mate, and with a shrug allowed TJ to pass.
Do me a favour. Give me 5 minutes before alerting the mansion, and I'll give you a pack of fags on my way back.
The guards looked at each other.
2 packs.
Done.
Scene 2. Iain and Liz are heading across Ireland from Dublin to track 2 potential IRA suspects. Liz was enjoying the beautiful, green, rolling countryside while Brian bounced along behind the steering wheel.
So, what's this about stealing cars?
Brian looked over to her, unsure of what to say.
We're not supposed to have a past, remember?
Well, clearly you told TJ. Come on, out with it.
Nothing for nothing, right?
She caught his meaning.
Okay, but you first.
TJ should learn to keep his mouth shut. We just got talking while drinking in the pub a couple of nights ago.
Guinness. It'll do that to you.
Well, I've always been able to do whatever I want.
That was supposed to be the start of a sentence, but Liz wasn't going to let him get away with that.
Whatever do you mean?
Brian was hand gesturing while gripping the steering wheel with most of his fingers.
Well, I just got one of these faces. I mean, not just the face. Like, my whole appearance seems to disappear into the background. No one notices me. No, it's not a bad thing.
Liz was already crestfallen on his behalf.
I can't tell you what it is about me, but if there are more than 3 people in the room, then I can just disappear. No one takes any notice of what I do. I can leave and come back hours later, and no one, literally no one, will realise I've been away.
Oh, Brian.
No, listen. I grew up in Hackney, North London. Proper Cockney I am. Well, it was hard. We were living hand to mouth. Dad had gone to the Great War, and we never saw him again. Well, Mum went a bit crazy. There were 6 of us. All kinds of stuff happened.
Liz could sense that all kinds of stuff wasn't good. Just a slight frog in his throat, maybe his eyes were shinier than usual.
Yeah, well, we needed money, see? And it occurred to me that if someone wanted to buy a car for £100, a lot of money in those days, then they might come to me if I could sell them the same car for £20.
And you stole the cars?
Brian looked defensive, almost apologetic.
Well, yeah, I stole the cars. From the age of 13, I was walking up to cars. No one stopped me. Oh, they had to be running, mind. I wasn't strong enough back then to crank the handle. But I would just jump in and drive away.
Who buys cars from a 13-year-old?
Well, I'll give you that. It's not easy selling cars age 13. First one took a few attempts, but then I got lucky. This chap came up to me. He said, "I hear you got a car for sale." I said, "Might have." And he didn't look like a copper, too well dressed. "How much?" he said. £20, I said.
Didn't he try to negotiate?
Nah, he knew a good deal. And I was so cocky that if he'd said no, I would have walked away. But the best bit was that once we'd done the deal, and he'd sat in his car, and he says, "Every car you get like this, I'll give you £20 for, all right?" All right? All right? I was dancing all the way home. I gave Mum the money. She said, "Where did this come from?" I said, "Don't ask." And that was the last she ever mentioned about money from me.
Liz smiled until Brian added,
She never needed for money again. Not from then until we put her in the ground from the Spanish flu.
Liz reckoned Brian would have been 15 years old when he became an orphan. Brian looked across, still bouncing behind the wheel. She could see him as a 13-year-old, barely able to see over the top of it. That same cockney smile, that determination to look after his family.
Never was caught. Never once. Invisible, see? All right, Liz, if that's your real name. Your turn. What's going on with you and TJ?
What makes you think anything is going on between me and TJ?
You mean apart from the long looks you give each other? The times you've both been mysteriously missing? Your blushing cheeks every time he walks in the room? The fact he can't say your name without stuttering?
Stop it! He doesn't stutter.
I reckon I've said enough.
Well, if you must know, I am very fond of TJ.
Fond my backside. I'm fond of ice cream. Nah, you two are much more than that. A blind man in the dark can see that. What are you going to do about it?
Nothing. We can't do anything, can we? This is not a life that has a future. Certainly not one we can plan for. TJ and I, we get on okay. If you really want to know, I'm pretty sure we love each other, but we'll just have to wait until this bloody war is over. And if we're both still alive, then we'll see.
Brian went quiet, thinking, driving, enjoying the company of Liz without needing to speak. As for Liz, the smile had gone. She was thinking too. In due course, they approached Castle Troy. Brian pulled up by a small copse outside the village and hid the bicycle behind a fallen tree. They then continued until they found O'Driscoll's garage. By this point, Liz was in the back so that the van would appear to be empty when Brian left it. Brian switched off the engine. He was just about to exit the vehicle, but then made to reach for something under the passenger seat.
Don't wait, Liz. Do whatever you want. As if you're invisible, if you like. But don't wait.
Was he talking about the mission or TJ? Liz was thinking of something to say when she heard the door close and Brian was gone. His shadow walking across the windscreen on his way back to the bicycle. No one would see him. No one ever did. Scene 3. Liz and TJ get married. TJ made his way back through the crowds. The war was already over for the people getting in his way, or so they thought. They made him angry. How stupid were they? The war was not over, not even by half. The worst was yet to come. He had seen what happens in a landing. He had seen the death and chaos it caused for not just the soldiers, but children and old people and women and men. He watched the citizens of London smile and laugh as they went about their business, and he wanted to scream at them, "Have you forgotten? Don't you know there's a fucking war going on? How dare you enjoy yourselves?" But he knew they were no different from him. Most of the women had lived through the Blitz, and most of the men, Americans and the rest, knew their time was coming. Go on, enjoy it while you can, thought TJ, as he brought himself back under control. Soon he was back at his hotel room. Liz was there, still in bed, naked beneath a sheet pulled up around her neck, smiling at him expectantly as he entered. Immediately she could see the disappointment in his face.
What's wrong?
I've received orders. I'll leave tomorrow.
Damn. I don't know. I suppose I just thought they'd forget about you. Leave you alone. Oh, these last 10 days, I hoped we might have had longer.
I hope we'd have forever. This fucking war just goes on and on.
You know, I think that's the first time I've ever heard you swear.
She wriggled down the bed, lay on her side, and pulled the sheet away.
Well, come on, big boy. We have a lot of memories to create.
TJ had already begun to undress.
Everything's about sex with you, isn't it?
And who the hell are you? St. Peter?
St. John, actually. Now get on your knees and start praying.
The following morning they made love again as if it was a law of nature, and then TJ smoked a cigarette while Liz folded into his side. She was toying with his chest, clearly thinking things through, lost in her own world.
TJ?
Uh-huh.
Let's get married. You love me, and I love you. Let's get married. Let's get married today.
Liz was rising as she was speaking. This was going to happen. She would make it so. TJ was still lying in bed, struggling to catch up. She had already built up a head of steam.
We can get married. People do it all the time. Then, no matter what, we'll know there is someone back home waiting.
Finally, he had a valid objection.
But I'm leaving in about 3 hours.
Liz was pulling on her stockings, a suspender belt around her waist under her silk cami knickers.
So, you're not opposed in principle, then?
TJ was admiring the view and trying to think at the same time. Liz had a beautiful body.
Well, I don't know. No, I suppose I'm not opposed. It's just I always thought I would be doing the proposing.
Shirt on, she was stepping into a skirt.
Is it possible we can do this in 3 hours?
Liz turned to him, frustrated that he was still in bed doing nothing but ogle. She threw a shirt at his face.
Come on! We're going to find out. Hurry!
Within 5 minutes, both armed with passports and birth certificates, they left the room, flew down the staircase, and jumped into a taxi.
Where to, Gav?
The nearest registry office.
10 minutes later, they were sitting in front of the Westminster Registrar. Yes, they could get married, explained the helpful registrar. Under a special wartime decree, they could get married if they had the permission of a local magistrate.
Where do we get that?
Marylebone Magistrates Court will be your nearest. You better hurry. They start their lists in about 30 minutes. After that, nothing will get done until tomorrow.
29 minutes later, a flustered Liz slid to a halt in front of the last magistrate due to enter the court.
Please, please, sir, we need permission to get married. He's off in 2 hours and we just don't know when we will see each other again.
Having paid the cabbie, TJ caught up. The magistrate was a small man with thinning black hair, bushy black eyebrows, a bulbous nose, and thin lips.
I'm sorry, young lady. The court is in session. Justice waits for no one.
His black eyes seemed dead. Liz looked at TJ, both stunned as they watched the little man start towards the door. But then he turned and broke into the widest smile.
Just my little joke. Come on, let's get you two married.
The taxi dropped them off back at the hotel, and TJ lifted Liz across the threshold of their bedroom door. She sat back on the bed as TJ began packing his suitcase. She was looking at the ring that TJ had bought in a jeweler's on the way back from the registrar's office, twisting it around on her finger.
John, I don't know where you're going, but in 3 weeks I will be leaving too. God knows when we will see each other again. Listen, if you get back to London and I'm not here, get to Whisperer Green. It's in West Sussex. Whisperer Green. You understand?
TJ had placed his suitcase on top of the tall dresser and was folding his clothes into it.
Glen Hinnerstall.
What?
Glen Hinnerstall, Isle of Skye. That's where you have to go if you can't find me.
Christ. Well, let's just make sure we get back to here. Okay, John? I love you.
TJ closed the lid of his suitcase.
I know, Liz. I love you too. I always have.
They were in each other's arms now, Liz shaking.
John, I'm frightened. I feel I'll never see you again.
People feel like that. TJ remembered thinking it before going to Italy.
God knows, Liz. But dead or alive, I'll be with you.
Liz's mouth was close to TJ's ear. She was barely audible, but TJ caught every word.
Yes, that's it. Dead or alive. Please let it be alive. We have so much to do.
He pulled back so that their mouths were touching. They held each other tightly, hoping and praying that this would not be the last time.
To find out more about the book, visit tjswar.com, and to buy it, click on the Amazon link below. To accompany us on our journey, please subscribe to this podcast because we're going to make a $50 million movie.